Sorry about the long wait, but it's time I got back to Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts 1 ended with a massive cliffhanger, and it's a good thing the game was a massive success, otherwise that would have come back to bite them. I mean, I've had to deal with many unresolved cliffhangers over the years. God, I still want a conclusion to reboot. So with the success of Kingdom Hearts, they decided to do an Interquel game that would fill in the gaps between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. They said this game would not be needed to understand Kingdom Hearts 2, and this would start a rather unfortunate trend. Of course, it didn't quite work since there were people who didn't own a Game Boy Advance, and many were quite confused when they started playing Kingdom Hearts 2. To mitigate this, Square made a PlayStation 2 remake of this game called Chain of Memories. This was the version that got put onto the HD collection, so for the most part I will be showing footage from that version. I did record both the GBA original and the remaster, but for the most part we'll be covering the remake. Well, time to get started. Let's begin with Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. You get two sides of the story this time. First you start with Sora, then you get to see what's going on with Riku. So we pick up where Kingdom Hearts 1 left off with Sora, Donald, and Goofy chasing after a letter from King Mickey. They stop for the night, where they find some mysterious cloaked figure who tells them that they are in Castle Oblivion. That's inviting. Sora and the gang decide to stick around and hope that Riku and King Mickey are inside. Here we meet Organization 13. Well, not actually called that yet, but I'm just getting ahead of myself. Particularly Axel.
Who am I? Oh, my name's Axel. Got it memorized?
As it turns out, Sora, Donald, and Goofy have lost their abilities, which is the first of many excuses for why Sora has to start from square one. You can't have your hero be fully powered at the beginning of the game. I'm wondering how Breath of the Wild 2 is going to have Link start from scratch. Sora is given a deck of cards that contain the worlds he visited in Kingdom Hearts 1, but as Sora is getting higher and higher, he finds himself losing his memories but gaining new ones, particularly of a girl named Naminé who he is apparently friends with back on Destiny Island. Yeah, this should have been a red flag for anyone. You remember how I said the Disney worlds were abridged retellings of their movie counterparts? Well, these worlds are basically abridged retellings of that. In Traverse Town, Leon, Aerith, and Yuffie don't recognize Sora at first, but do eventually, even though they are not real. They're just illusions. But the Disney characters don't remember him at all. Neither does Sora. Gotta say, the castle really does work fast. Also, there's no Tarzan level in this game. Apparently that was due to rights issues with the Tarzan creators. But what's really going on is this pink-haired pretty boy Marluxia is trying to overthrow his superior, like Starscream from Transformers, along with Larxene, a woman who I swear reminds me of Azula from Avatar The Last Airbender in some ways, and Axel, who I already mentioned. Marluxia's plan is to make Sora his slave and is using Naminé, who has the strange power to rewrite people's memories. Why is that? Well, it's not explained in this game. This organization spawned quite the fanbase. You know, they remind me of the Akatsuki from Naruto. God, there I go, comparing this series to Naruto again. Am I going to be doing that constantly? Also, Sora and the gang have to deal with this Riku replica, who I got some words for because he really outstays his welcome in both this game and the series in general. Meanwhile, Riku wakes up in the basement of Castle Oblivion and very nearly gets his body taken over by Ansem, but is saved by the timely intervention of King Mickey. Riku's story has him dealing with his demons, so I guess I'll talk about the characters real quick. We got some work to do with Sora and the organization. Sora's arc in this game is a little hard to define. As he starts going to the top, he begins losing memories of his friends. Particularly at first he mentions Kairi in addition to Naminé, but eventually his memory of Kairi fades and Naminé starts supplanting her entirely, and Sora comes to believe that she is the person most special to him. But eventually...
It isn't you. The person most special to me. It's not you, right?
But as always, his strong sense of justice kicks in because it doesn't matter if his memories of Naminé aren't real. He'll still fight to protect her. Oh, Sora, you shonen protagonist, you. Riku, on the other hand, is haunted by his past deeds. His story is about trying to figure out if he can ever get back to the light or if he is doomed to be trapped in darkness. A small linger of Ansem remains in his heart, and is tempting Riku to go back to the darkness. But King Mickey is there to keep guiding him back. Obviously it's like good angel, bad angel sort of thing. But unfortunately, one thing that I must complain about with Riku's story is that with the exception of Hollow Bastion, since he had history with Maleficent, Riku in the Disney worlds has no story. It feels like we missed a chance to go into what he did. For example, I would have liked to have seen how he captured Jasmine, but instead it's never mentioned. But Riku eventually comes to the conclusion that instead of trying to choose one side, light or dark, over the other, he can instead find a balance. Kairi is not in this game. Mostly. We'll come back to that. This is going to be soccer all over again, isn't it? Axel went on to be a fan favorite. The dude looks exactly like Reno from Final Fantasy, and sounds like Raiden from Metal Gear Solid. Pre-cyborg upgrade. Good old Quentin Flynn. In this game, he's a rather magnificent bastard, playing both sides of the organization to his advantage. One of my favorite moments is when he executes Vexen.
No! Please don't! I don't want to...
Goodbye.
Slightly different in the GBA version. It definitely colored his character differently, considering the next game would show a softer side to him. But we'll cover that. Larxene is, well, she's quite sadistic. She likes to torture her enemies. I swear, she and Azul would get along great if they ever met. She has no sense of personal space, and she often comes across as openly flirtatious. She's mean to both friend and enemy, and is just an absolute bitch. Vexen is the mad scientist of the group. Every organization has to have one, I suppose. He wants to experiment over everyone. He's the one who made the Riku replica. But let's just say this about Vexen. He is unmistakably the loser of the organization. Everybody likes to make fun of him. Nobody takes him seriously. And when Axel takes him out, he's begging for mercy, which is kind of pitiful, but also supposed to make him look pathetic. Marluxia, our main villain, is, well, pretty much a very serious villain. He was apparently supposed to be female, but they realized having the two female members of the organization trying to overthrow their leader would cause unfortunate implications. It's obvious very little about his character was changed overall. He is effective as a very cruel villain, but of course he makes the mistake of not comprehending good.
Imbeciles.
You would knowingly shackle your heart with a chain of memories born of lies? You would be one who has a heart, yet cast aside your heart's freedom?
Laxius is a big brute, but he's by no means stupid. He's the brawn to Zexion's brain. He basically is the brute of the organization, like Nappa from Dragon Ball Z. His characterization is more of a well-meaning villain as we come to later see, but he really doesn't take well to being mocked as we see.
I, Lexius, will not yield to the frail heart of an infantile coward. Now, stop resisting, and let the darkness in.
Zexion is a bookworm. He actually isn't fought in the original Game Boy Advance. He is in the remake. Axel just has the Riku replica kill him when his guard is down, but the remake does add in a proper battle with him. Zexion's whole role is just to be a patsy. He wants to be the big bad, but is nothing more than a mere pawn.
You can't do this!
So sorry, Zexion. You just found out way too much.
The Riku replica, well, this is the first of many clones in this series, something Kingdom Hearts massively overdoes as we would come to see. At first he's playing up the part of Sora's rival for Naminé, since he thinks he's just trying to protect Naminé, but of course his memory was warped and he looks down on Riku for fighting his dark powers. But eventually he starts to resent being a fake.
But nothing changes. I'm still just empty! Everything about me is borrowed. As long as you're around, I'll never be more than a shadow!
But as he lays dying, he comes to terms with it, thus admitting some pity for him.
What happens when a fake dies? One like me. Where will my heart go? Does it disappear? It'll go somewhere. Maybe to the same place as mine. A faithful replica until the very end. That's okay.
As for Diz, as he's come to be called, he's an enigma at this point in the story, but there are some hints to his true nature. King Mickey specifically mentions that he's got a feeling that he's met Diz before, but doesn't know from where. Foreshadowing. Is he an ally or enemy? Well, his role was intentionally kept small to set up talk for Kingdom Hearts 2. We will soon see. Ansem has a smaller role, but he's just the same delightfully hammy bad guy. Of course, one of the best parts in the story for me is whenever King Mickey holds him back. Mickey is just badass in Kingdom Hearts, probably my favorite interpretation of him in media so far. He gets an amazing moment in Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind that I won't give away. I don't know why Mickey doesn't show up very much until the end. Apparently he was just busy holding back Ansem. Gotta write your Deus Ex Machina out of the picture, don't you? Naminé is another mystery. She looks very similar to Kairi, and she has a mysterious power, but why does she have this power? We don't get answers, like I said. This will sadly become a huge trend with Kingdom Hearts. Answer one question, raise about 5 more. Just like Naruto. I did it again, I'm sorry. So what can I say about Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories story? Well, the main theme is about memories. What do we hold dear to our hearts? To lose is the game, but we should hold true to what we believe in. I will say this, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories definitely expanded the lore of the series, showing that the Akatsuki, the organization, was in the works with a far more sinister agenda. But what is this organization's goal? You got 2 sides here. One side is trying to take over the organization, while the other side is trying to stop that from happening, while Axel plays both sides to his advantage. What will Sora and Riku have to do to stop it? Will Kairi actually have a major role? Well, we'll find out in Kingdom Hearts 2. I'll say this, while the Game Boy Advance version used sprites, it caused the FMVs to be rather decompressed. No voice acting, which is pretty standard. But the remake does have voice acting for the Castle Oblivion cutscenes, with most of the voice actors reprising their roles. Though it's pretty obvious Haley Joel Osment has hit puberty since the first game. Also, I suspect Wayne Allwine was in poor health as this game did come out shortly before he passed away, sadly, as Mickey feels a little strained at times. Gone is Billy Zane as Ansem, sadly, played by Richard Epcar, whose performance here is definitely improved from Kingdom Hearts 2. Unfortunately, this game is one of the examples of Square not bothering to edit the mouth movements to match the English dialogue, as evidenced by long pauses.
I do not fear it.
I will say the HD remaster did wonders for the game, as it still looks good. Well, how shall I sum up the gameplay of Chain of Memories? It's all about the cards. Sora fights alone with Donald and Goofy coming down as assists. Every card is numeric value. The higher the card, the better the chance your attack will land. If you play a card lower than the enemy, then your attack won't get through. You can also run out of cards, and you have to very quickly reload them. And you're vulnerable while you're reloading, so be cautious. You can stack cards onto each other to create slides, which allows Sora to do one of his special moves. But on the flip side, every first card you use in the slide is gone forever unless you have a potion card. Fortunately, Sora can build his deck. In addition to Donald and Goofy, in each Disney world, Sora gets access to a Disney character for an assist as well. But Sora can also gain party members he can use whenever he wants, like the summons in the first game. My personal favorite has got to be the Cloud card. When you're surrounded by enemies, the best bet was to use Cloud's Omnislash Slight, as it just did so much damage. My favorite attack card in the game. In the remake, Sora, Donald, and Goofy can do their own Trinity attacks, which really helps, except they are very slow, so you better hope they can't stop you from doing the attack. You want to have a fair mix of attack cards, magic cards, and item cards, particularly potions to revive your cards after you use a slight attack. Basically, the way it works, you go into a Disney World, you go to a door, and you pick what kind of room it is. It has to be greater or less than the value on the door, and depending on the room you choose, you can either have a lot of enemies or have it so easy you don't have to do anything. You definitely want to keep up the grind because you might be too low level to be able to do much. When you get down to it, all the rooms look exactly the same. You do find story-related doors that can give you a cutscene, but sadly they're not voice acted. Riku, on the other hand, goes into a world with a set deck. You don't get the build. It's completely random to what you get, and sometimes it's not very forgiving. Riku can build up his Dark Meter and transform into Dark Riku, which gives him access to slights. Riku's slights allow him to use his dark powers. My personal favorite is Dark Aura, which allows Riku to cover so much range with his attacks. Of course, if the enemy plays a 0 card, you just wasted your slight, so be careful how you use it. Unfortunately, Riku doesn't get any healing cards. What he gets is King Mickey. You bring him down and he will play a card that will stun enemies and heal Riku. On the other hand, Riku gets access to all the boss character cards after they are defeated, while Sora can only pick and choose. But there's also this card duel mode that I found very it's there. Yeah, that sums it up. The worlds aren't original. There's 100 Acre Wood. It's actually different in the 2 versions. I prefer it in the remake. The Game Boy version was very painful to play through. You do get a bit of a tease of a new town that will be visited in Kingdom Hearts 2, Twilight Town. What's the significance of this town? Sora's never been here. Well, that's a very interesting question that will be answered next game. You see, I told you that this was becoming a trend. After completing a world, more often than not, Sora or Riku will have to fight an organization member in the hallways, or you'll have to fight Riku Replica, a grand total of 6 times. 6! Dear God, that was annoying. The one boss I found most annoying to fight was Vexen. Ugh, I never want to fight him again. What I will say about this game, it's not horrible, but it gets tiring, and honestly the level difficulty gets really annoying regardless of how much you leveled up. Quite a few number of bosses took much longer than they really should have. Now we'll cover the ending for both Sora and Riku, so skip to this time in the video if you don't want to be spoiled. You have been warned. So after taking care of Vexen, Larxene, and driving off Axel, yeah, he ain't dumb, we still got stories to tell of him, Sora and the gang finally confront Marluxia.
You would be one who has a heart, yet cast aside your heart's freedom? You turn from the truth because your heart is weak. You will never defeat me!
Yeah, his first form took me a while to beat. He lives up to his mantle as the Grim Reaper. I was able to revive myself, but then he just killed me again anyway with those stupid flower petal attacks. Ugh, I hate you, pretty boy. Also, despite the Riku Replica coming to help you in the cutscene, I don't think he helps you out at all in the battle. So the first form is down. Of course, this wasn't the end. Marluxia goes through the door and Sora has time to prepare for one last battle.
As lightless oblivion devours you, drown in the ever-blooming darkness!
Marluxia's second form is, well, I've seen stranger forms, about on par with whatever Ulquiorra turned into. All you really have to do is stop his major attacks with the right cards. Once that's done, he has a final form which is exclusive to the remake. Basically, he stands perfectly still and tries to curse you, but as long as you have the right cards, he'll go down.
This is the heart of a hero.
With Marluxia dead, Sora is told by Naminé that in order to regain his memories, he must go into a deep sleep, or he can keep the memories of his time here, but Sora decides to be put back the way he was. But just before he goes to sleep, Sora is able to recall the person most dear to him.
Kairi!
I guess Kairi did deserve a role after all. Now let's cover Riku's ending. Riku finally confronts Ansem at Diz's insistence, and Ansem is ready to take back Riku's body.
Very well. In that case, you shall sink into the abyss!
So the final battle with Ansem, one notable difference in the remake and Game Boy Advance version is that Riku has Mickey's help in the remake but not in the Game Boy Advance version. Ansem fights about the same as he did in Kingdom Hearts 1. Once I was able to get Riku into his dark form and pull off Dark Aura, I was able to do some real damage to him.
My dark shadow lingers. Someday, I will return!
More times than I'd like you to, I will admit. So now Riku and King Mickey are going to travel the worlds as cloaked figures, and Riku affirms his decision.
What are you making me choose now?
Between the road to light and the road to darkness.
Neither suits me. I'm taking the middle road.
Do you mean the twilight road to nightfall?
No. It's the road to dawn.
So that's Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. While I would say the card game mechanic was an ambitious attempt, it just didn't quite land for me. Sora's campaign goes on a little longer than I would have liked, while Riku's is at a much better pace. Unfortunately, the game would start the trend of Kingdom Hearts relying too much on secondhand information. Not many people played this game when it came out, so they were left confused when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, which we'll cover next time. Wait, who's this kid? Well, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please hit that bell, like, and subscribe button. If you want updates, follow me on Twitter or join my Discord, which are provided in the description below. See you next time.